quiet one. Mercy General Trauma Center, Chicago. The woman nobody noticed. Chicago in November makes you feel small. The cold comes off Lake Michigan like a wall, and from the upper floors of Mercy General Trauma Center, the city at night looks like a circuit board nobody turned off. Amber grids stretching south toward Indiana, the Willis Tower blinking red at the clouds like a warning. Nurse Kate Reeves had seen that view 800 times. She worked the graveyard shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 nights a week, the hours nobody fought over. 31 years old, dark hair in a permanent bun, brown eyes that found the floor whenever a conversation got personal. To the day shift, she was a name on a handoff sheet. To the night shift, she was simply the quiet one. She covered doubles without complaint, ate alone at the corner table, never came to the Christmas party, never joined post-shift breakfast at the diner on Michigan Avenue. She moved through Mercy General like water, finding the path of least resistance, present, necessary, invisible. Dr. James Whitfield, senior attending on nights, had worked alongside her for 3 years. The most he'd ever said, "Reeves is the only person on this floor who actually gets calmer when things go wrong." He had no idea what that meant. Beneath her navy scrub top, on the inside of her left forearm, was a small tattoo, faded black ink, the eagle, globe, and anchor of the United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Kate Reeves had spent 6 years in the Corps, the last 3 attached to a scout sniper platoon in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. She had lain motionless for 48 hours in rubble, controlling her breathing, waiting for a 4-inch window 900 yards away. She had made that shot. She had made others. She was discharged after an IED destroyed the vehicle in front of hers outside Musa Kala. She pulled 2 men out before the secondary device detonated. The third, Corporal Danny Ortiz, 20 years old, from Albuquerque. She didn't reach in time. She thought about Danny approximately once every 4 hours. She expected to do this for the rest of her life. She became a nurse because saving strangers was the only math that made sense anymore. It was 2:20 a.m. on a Thursday when Kate finished her medication rounds and paused at room 408. Richard Halston, 63, senior VP of a defense logistics firm called Meridian Global Solutions, admitted 48 hours ago. Acute cardiac event, possible induced. Toxicology still working on the blood work. 2 federal agents sat outside his door. No hospital badges, radio earpieces, hands resting in laps with practiced accessibility. Kate had clocked them her first night back after his admission. She'd also noticed the way Halston looked at her when she checked his IV. Not the frightened look of a sick man, something with a calculation in it. She'd filed both observations away without comment. "Quiet night," said Marcus Webb, the charge nurse, appearing with 2 cups of terrible machine coffee. "So far," Kate said, the lights went out. Not a flicker. A complete instantaneous severance. 2 seconds of absolute black. Then the emergency generator kicked in and bathed the corridor in amber. Marcus looked up. "Generator test?" Kate had already set her coffee down. Her posture changed, not dramatically, just a subtraction of the deliberate slouch she maintained, her spine straightening, her chin leveling. Her heart rate, briefly pushed to 90, came back down, 60, 58. "No," she said. "The backup alarm should have chimed 4 seconds ago." She was already looking at the stairwell door. It opened. 4 men in matte black plate carriers, suppressed carbines at low ready, moving in a tight practice stack. No ski masks, no improvised gear, These were professionals. The lead man swept his muzzle across the nurse's station. Nobody moves. Hands visible. Now. Kate raised her hands. She made her eyes wide, let her lower lip tremble, just slightly. The micro-expression of a terrified civilian. "Please," she whispered. "We're just nurses." The lead man looked at her for 1 second, dismissed her, moved on. That was his first mistake. Down the corridor, the 2 federal agents reacted. 3 suppressed shots, flat and fast. Both agents went down. Marcus made a sound beside her that she recognized as the sound a person makes when their brain refuses to process what their eyes just saw. "Ground floor cafeteria," the lead man ordered his team. "Anyone makes noise, put them down." Kate stood with her hands raised and counted. 4 through the stairwell, 12 minimum for a full building lockdown, 8 more she hadn't seen. A mercenary appeared in the medication room doorway. "Out here, move." Kate looked at him, at the IV pole beside the medication cart, at the 3 inches of space between his leading foot and the cabinet to his left. "Okay," she whispered. "Please don't hurt me." She stepped toward him. Hi. The lock clicks open. The mercenary made the mistake trained people are taught never to make. He let her get close. He assessed her as threat level 0. Small woman, scrubs, terrified expression, category, civilian compliant, irrelevant. He was still completing that assessment when Kate moved. She drove the IV pole base into the nerve cluster of his right wrist. Not a swing, a thrust, precise and economical. His grip loosened by a fraction. Her left palm heel hit his chin, snapping his head back. Her right hand found the carbine sling and stripped the weapon from his loosened grip before it hit the floor. She guided him to the linoleum with vascular pressure on his carotid. 6 seconds. No sound. She knelt and worked quickly. Earpiece removed, fitted into her own ear, combat knife taken, Glock 19 with suppressor. She checked the chamber, reseated the magazine, eased the slide closed without a snap. She left the carbine, too long for hospital corridors. She removed her nursing clogs. Bare feet on linoleum made 0 noise and let her feel the vibration of heavy boots through the floor. She pulled off her scrub top, leaving the dark gray compression shirt underneath. Tucked the Glock into her waistband. Took 1 slow breath. 4 count in, hold, out. The coldness settled over her. Not cruelty, clarity. The mental state her instructor had called the bubble. Every non-essential frequency cut. What remained was signal only. Danny Ortiz was in the bubble with her. He was always in the bubble with her. Not tonight, not one more. A voice in the earpiece. "Bravo 2, status on the north wing." Kate keyed the mic. 2 short clicks. Click, click. Standard acknowledgement. Cannot speak, continuing mission. "Copy, Harrison. Report to the VIP suite." She had bought herself minutes. She used them to think. She had worked this floor for 4 years. She knew every supply closet, every maintenance corridor, every room with 2 exits. She knew the pharmacy on 3 defaulted open, on power failure. She knew the 4th floor atrium balcony had a direct sightline to the cafeteria's glass wall. The mercenaries had taken a hospital. They had not taken her hospital. She moved into the corridor, pressing the wall, heading for the secondary emergency stairwell at the north end, the one nobody used because the handle had been broken since 2022, the one Kate had fixed herself with surgical wire 6 months ago after noticing it was the only stairwell without a camera. She hadn't known why she'd fixed it then. She knew now. She keyed the mic. "Harrison's resting," she said quietly. "You've got a problem on the north wing, Decker." Silence. Then, "Who is this? Identify yourself." "I'm the night shift," Kate said, "and you're making noise in my ward." She pulled the earpiece out and went through stairwell door. 4 floors down, Cole Decker, former Delta Force, current contractor for a company whose incorporation papers listed a Cayman Islands address, stared at his radio. He recognized the voice, not the person. The quality, the breath control, the complete absence of adrenaline tremor that appeared in every civilian voice he'd ever heard in a situation like this. Even trained law enforcement who hadn't seen real combat, there was none of that in this woman's voice. "Change frequency," he said quietly. "Channel 6, and I want every staff member cross-referenced against military service records. Now." Hoi ba. What a nurse knows. The Mercy General Pharmacy was unlocked. The power outage had released the electromagnetic seal. Kate was inside in 11 seconds. She didn't go for the narcotics. She went for the chemical supply cabinet. She'd stocked it herself 60 times. She knew every bottle in the dark. Isopropyl alcohol, cold packs, aluminum foil, oxygen tubing, surgical tape. She worked at the counter with the efficiency of someone prepping a crash cart. 2 improvised flashbangs, 1 smoke generator, 2 minutes flat. Her sniper instructor had told her once, "The most dangerous operator isn't the strongest or the fastest. It's the one who knows the terrain better than the enemy." Kate knew this terrain. Through the earpiece, she'd found Channel 6. She heard Decker dispatch a 2-man team to the 3rd floor. 4 minutes. She took the stairwell to the pediatric wing. Cartoon animals on the walls, gone strange and flat in the amber emergency light. She found her position at the corner outside room 310. A fatal funnel. Anyone coming around it committed their whole body before their muzzle could clear the angle. She pressed flat against the wall. Flashbang in her left hand, Glock in her right. She waited. Patience was the thing that separated a sniper from every other kind of fighter, not courage. Courage was available to almost anyone in the right moment. Patience was practiced until it lived in the bones. 2 sets of boots, high-low stack. Good technique. The first man came around the corner. Kate threw the flashbang low, closed her eyes, covered her ear. The crack and flash bought her 3 seconds. She came around into the disorientation and worked fast. Elbow to the first man's throat, controlled descent to the floor, Glock to the back of his knee. "You're done," she said quietly. "Stay down." He stayed down. The second man had his rifle up, still blinking. Kate was already inside his barrel length. She stripped the weapon the same way she'd taken Harrison's carbine, rotating his wrist to the break point, just to the edge, not through it. He let go. She zip-tied both men to the corridor railing with medical restraint ties from her pocket and went through their vest pockets. Third pocket of the second man, a ruggedized satellite phone, screen illuminated. She read the message thread. "Package is willing. Repeat. Subject is cooperative. Feds neutralized per plan. Prepare voluntary extraction. Roof 0300. Clean the site. No witnesses." Kate read it twice. Package is willing. Cooperative. Richard Halston wasn't a victim. He was the client. The poisoning attempt 2 days ago had been theater, real enough to get him FBI protection and a hospital room, placing him exactly where he needed to be. The federal agents were dead because dead men don't testify about who walked voluntarily out of a hospital at 3 a.m., and the medical staff cleaned the site, no witnesses. Marcus, Dr. Whitfield, every nurse and resident and technician who had come to work on a Thursday night to take care of sick people. Kate stood in the pediatric corridor surrounded by cartoon elephants and let herself feel the full weight of it. 1 moment. Counted out. Then she let it go. She picked up the rifle, a Mark 18 with a variable optic, clean bore, checked the chamber and magazine, and thought about the 4th floor atrium balcony. 80 yards to the cafeteria glass wall, maybe 82. In Helmand, she had made a shot at 900 yards in a 15-knot crosswind. 80 yards was not a problem. She took the stairwell up. 80 yards. The 4th floor atrium balcony overlooked the cafeteria 2 floors below through floor-to-ceiling glass. Kate went flat at the railing. Through the glass, she counted 22 hostages between overturned tables. Marcus Webb near the center, Dr. Whitfield against the far wall in his white coat, hands folded, holding himself together through sheer will. 4 mercenaries on the exits, and Richard Halston near the emergency door, pressed suit, leather briefcase at his feet, checking his watch. Kate built a supported position on the railing using folded blankets from a linen cart. She settled the Mark 18 onto the rest and dialed the optic to 4 power, double-paned acoustic glass. The round would deflect on entry. She'd lose 3 to 4 inches of point of impact, slightly left. She'd aim low and right of center mass. She'd done this calculation before. The physics didn't change based on the setting. In the earpiece, Decker's voice, control stretched thin over something that was no longer entirely containable. All units, accelerate the timeline. I want the site sterile in 6 minutes. The 4 mercenaries shifted posture. The perimeter walkers stopped walking and turned to face the hostages. Dr. Whitfield stood up. He stood up from the floor in his white coat and put himself between the nearest mercenary and the people sitting behind him. Hands raised, palms out, the universal language of please. The mercenary raised his rifle. Kate stopped breathing. The world went quiet the way it always went quiet. The atrium, the amber light, the rain against the glass, all of it receded. There was only the reticle, the target, the natural respiratory pause at the bottom of the exhale, that fraction of a second of absolute stillness. She placed the chevron 4 inches below and 2 inches right of center mass. Squeezed. The suppressed Mark 18 made a sound like a heavy book dropped on wood. The cafeteria glass spiderwebbed. The mercenary dropped straight down. No stumble, no grab. Just an immediate subtraction from the vertical. The cafeteria erupted. Hostages went flat. 3 remaining mercenaries scattered. Smooth is fast. She cycled to target 2, sprinting for the kitchen door, crossing left to right. She led him 18 inches and squeezed. He went down mid-stride, left leg folding, femur painful, survivable. The medical staff could fix a femur. Target 3 had found the balcony with his eyes. He fired a suppressing shot, offhand, off balance. She didn't move. She waited 2 beats, and in the moment his eye came off the optic to reacquire, she put the chevron on his shoulder. He sat down hard against the wall. 3 targets, 11 seconds. Then Decker rose from behind the serving counter, not surrendering, firing. 3 controlled shots, the marksmanship of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. First round hit the railing 2 feet left. Second hit the blanket roll, and she felt the impact through the rifle. Third was close enough that she felt the air displacement. She did not move. She placed the reticle on his right shoulder, the shooting shoulder, and remembered what her instructor had spent 6 weeks making clear. The line between a sniper and a killer, the line she had sworn to hold. She squeezed. Decker's rifle hit the cafeteria floor. He went to one knee, right arm hanging useless, his face cycling through pain and shock, and the expression of a man recalculating everything. Halston bolted through the emergency exit. Kate tracked him through the optic for 2 full seconds. Then she lowered the rifle. She was a nurse. She neutralized threats to the people in her care. That was the line. She would not cross it. She engaged the safety. Through the building's exterior walls, growing louder through the November rain, Chicago PD sirens, multiple units. The jam had broken. 4 minutes, the ledger. Kate moved through the 4th floor, the same way she'd moved through it every night for 4 years. She retrieved her nursing clogs from the medication room, found a fresh navy scrub top in the linen closet. Second shelf, her size. She'd restocked it herself 2 weeks ago. Pulled it over her head, tucked the chest rig and the Glock into a sealed biohazard bag, placed it in a waste bin. She pulled her hair back into its bun and stood in front of the medication room mirror. Pulse 64. She looked exactly like herself. She took the main stairwell down and let herself be found by the 1st Chicago PD tactical team coming up. Hands, show me your hands. She showed them, wide eyes, trembling lip, the quiet one, terrified, grateful, utterly ordinary. I'm a nurse, she said. I've been hiding in a supply closet. Are the others okay? Please tell me the others are okay. They wrapped a foil blanket around her shoulders and walked her downstairs. By 4 a.m., the building was secured. 5 mercenaries were in custody, 3 with non-fatal gunshot wounds that the Mercy General Surgical Team, now working with the particular focused energy of people who understood they were alive because of something they couldn't fully explain, would spend the next several hours repairing. Richard Halston was apprehended 2 blocks from the hospital, still carrying his briefcase, by a patrol officer who had been directed to the area by a dispatcher who'd received an anonymous tip from a hospital paging system. Cole Decker was in surgery for his shoulder. The 2 federal agents outside room 408 did not survive. Their names were Gerald Moss and Anthony Fuentes. They had been doing their jobs. Kate sat on an ambulance bumper in the emergency bay, a foil blanket around her shoulders, while a paramedic checked her blood pressure. "You're doing great," the paramedic said. "Pulse is practically resting. You must have nerves of steel." Kate offered a small, timid smile. "I was just so scared," she said softly. "I'm so glad the police got here." She looked down at her hands folded in her lap. They were perfectly steady. Dr. Whitfield found her there 10 minutes later. He sat down on the bumper beside her without asking permission, which was the kind of thing James Whitfield did. He didn't say anything for a long moment. He just sat. "You know," he said finally, looking out at the rain-slicked street, "I've worked with you for 3 years, and I don't think I've ever actually asked, where were you before Mercy General?" Kate was quiet for a moment. "Around," she said. Whitfield nodded slowly. He looked at her with the eyes of a man who had, in the last 2 hours, stood between armed men and his colleagues, and understood something new about what courage looked like. "Well," he said, "I'm glad you were here tonight." Kate looked at the city, Chicago at 4 a.m., the rain beginning to ease, the first suggestion of gray at the eastern edge of the sky. She thought about Danny Ortiz. She thought, 2 out of 3, Danny. Tonight it was 22 out of 22. She didn't say it out loud. She didn't need to. She pulled the foil blanket tighter around her shoulders and watched the city begin slowly to wake up. 6 months later, a young nurse named Priya, one of the 22, enrolled in an EMT certification course. She told the intake coordinator she'd decided to get trained because of something that had happened at work, a night that had shown her what it meant to be prepared when it mattered. She didn't know who had been on the fourth floor balcony. Nobody did. The quiet ones rarely get credit. That's usually the way they prefer it. If this story got your heart pounding, if it reminded you that the most dangerous person in the room isn't always the one with the loudest voice, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about the ones nobody saw coming, and tell me in the comments, have you ever worked alongside someone and later realized you had no idea what they were truly capable of?